Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. Welcome back, Alastair. You had an idea for this topic. I think you spoke about it in the last podcast. You were like, let's talk about emotions. So I just wanted you could introduce what you thought we would talk about with emotions.
Yeah, I definitely remember mentioning it. Emotions are an interesting thing, I think, across people and age groups, and like just the way that people are affected by their emotions, the way they perceive their emotions, all that sort of thing. It's an interesting one coming from me because, my emotions are very, very...
Controlled?
I suppose controlled's the right word, although I don't feel like I spend a lot of time controlling them. I'm not a big one for the big flaring emotions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Mine are very steady smolder rather than...
You let yours build till you flare.
I don't know, do I do a lot of flaring?
No. Because you've learned how to dissipate or let go of emotion. Not always, but sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm the opposite.
Yes, you're very passionate and...
I'm a Pisces. My emotions are on my sleeve. They come and go like crazy. And then my hormonal shifts as I'm getting older make it even more interesting.
Yeah. That's true. But yeah, so it's quite interesting just even amongst ourselves how different emotions are for us.
Or, different how we process or feel them or imagine them to be.
Ooh. What are emotions? That makes me think then.
Well, you see...
Because you said imagine them. It's, it really is a creation, I guess, of your subconscious.
Well, I've always had that thing that I think someone probably said it. Mm-hmm. I don't know who it was, unfortunately. Is emotions are energy in motion.
Okay, yeah.
So I think, like, going back to that mind over matter, matter over mind, that energy idea of emotions are like that, the energy and physical response to whatever's happening inside or outside of you in your life.
Yeah, that's true. I suppose there's a part of your emotions are affected by your hormones and
nervous system
and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then, even with that, I feel like the perception and the sort of the framing that you give to your emotions based on those feedbacks is completely made up in your subconscious.
In what way can you...
Well, so what actually just sprung into my mind there was a Tony Robbins thing. He was talking about speaking to Bruce Springsteen. Mm-hmm. And Bruce Springsteen was saying that before he goes out on stage, his stomach is doing butterflies, his palms are sweaty, his heart's racing, like he can feel just his whole body buzzing. And he's so excited to go out and perform. And I can't remember who the other person was, but he was speaking to someone else who described the exact same things and said, I'm so nervous and terrified to go out on stage.
It was like anxiety for them.
It was anxiety for them. So that they were experiencing almost exactly the same physical triggers, but one of them said it was excitement and one of them said it was anxiety.
I suppose then it goes back to perception.
Yeah, it's like how you...
And then I think as well, we can have like a perception of like, I think as well, it's kind of ingrained to us a little bit is like there's good and bad emotions.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
It's like you shouldn't get angry, that sort of thing. You shouldn't get frustrated.
The negative emotions.
Yeah, it's like
anger, frustration.
Yeah, it's like so then I think people feel ashamed when they feel those emotions or deny them because, they don't want to feel them, or they feel like they're bad because they're feeling that way. It's like, I don't know where I was going with this, but it's like that idea of it's the perception, that idea of perception of what you're feeling.
And the perception of how other people are perceiving your emotions. Yeah.
And then almost even your own perception through your childhood and the way you've been brought up or something like that. Like if you're not allowed to express yourself when you are struggling, then you suppress the emotions and feel like it's bad to feel them. So then you've got this whole sort of like it's a lot to unravel, really, when you think about it with emotions. And I think, I can get overwhelmed with the feelings. And I'm sure a lot of, and I think when you get overwhelmed, that tends to be when you have some sort of outburst or, it tends to be outburst when you're angry and frustrated. It tends to be some sort of outburst, and it's not actually directed at anyone, but anyone who's close is generally in the firing range, and that's like the worst feeling for anyone you love. Yeah, that they get hit with that. And then there's the other one where it's like if it's anxiety or something like that, you get to the peak and you're into sort of panic attacks, and really like the physiological symptoms are really terrifying as well. And then I think then there's that thing like sadness and things that can lead you into sort of quite a lot of darkness as well. Yes. That depression or sort of feeling depressed in a way. Because it's not leaving, it's just like the overwhelm of it is you just slip into this darker way of feeling. Yeah,
it's interesting. And, the more I think about it, I know there's a lot of hormones and things that play roles in how we feel. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I feel like so much of it is the way we perceive it. Because, whether you're perceiving it as that sort of sadness and darkness or just a little bit tired and low energy, like that can have a huge...
And do you think, though, like it goes like beyond perception, like there's, of course, we always talk about that awareness. So aware of how you're feeling. Yeah. So sometimes you don't realize that you're feeling like whatever is there, anxiety, sadness, excitement, I don't know. Mm-hmm. You're not aware that you've got those feelings going on until they're at their loudest.
Yes.
And that can hit you out of the blue. You're like, whoa, why did I explode like that? And that's because you've not been aware of how you're feeling. Thoughts have gone again. That's fun. What did I say? I said it was beyond the perception, didn't I?
Yeah, you were thinking it was beyond just how you perceive them.
Yeah, it's I can't remember. It was a really good point as well.
Well, it was very interesting.
You liked it, yeah.
Yeah, really good. But yeah, because emotions for me, and it's probably because of the way I've grown up and coping mechanisms that I've used. Emotions are something that I find quite easy to, I don't like the word control, but to control. I can't think of a better word for it. But what it tends to lead with me is very static. Very sort of that, like I said at the start, that sort of smouldering, that constant level. And whether it's happy, anger, frustration, whatever it is, that level is just about exactly the same. Mm. So the difference between I'm really angry and I'm really happy is there isn't one.
It's really interesting.
Which is odd, I think.
Yeah. And perhaps it's a perception of how you think it is as well.
Maybe it is. Yeah.
I mean, I'm learning more about emotions as I go. And I think sometimes I have the habit of, I feel it and then I become it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's like, I'm feeling a bit anxious today, let's say. And then, I won't stop looking at it you know, and then that builds it. It's like you're focusing on it so that you become it, you know?
That's kind of like the thing we were saying just the other day. It's like some days you wake up and it's like, I'm grumpy today. And I just want to be grumpy. And I don't know why, but you get that day where you're just like, no, I want to be in a funk. I don't want to.
I've remembered.
You remembered.
It's beyond perception is accepting.
Okay, yes.
So that's literally what you're just leaning into.
Yeah,
is that accepting how you feel. And I think when you deny how you feel or try to suppress it, ignore it, that's when, you know, it tends to get worse.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I can imagine if you were frustrated and angry and you were trying to suppress it, then, or ignore it, then it would get worse.
Yeah, because you know, like I said, emotions are energy in motion. So, like, the whole idea is they're meant to flow through us. Yeah. You know, you're meant to feel it and then release it. And through time, however long that takes. You know, I'm not saying that it's like, I feel anxious, let it go. You know, it's like, okay, you know, and I quite often will ask myself, this is the focusing in on it, but it's important because sometimes it's because I've been triggered or whatever. And I'm like, okay, why am I feeling this way? And what's been more challenging for me is in perimenopause, the hormone fluctuation between progesterone and estrogen is so much more random. Like, instead of being in a sort of steady cycle, it is doing random things. So some days, some weeks, I just have my level of resting anxiety is way higher than it usually is, you know? Yeah. And as much as that is still a sort of opening for me to think, well, you know, sometimes I feel like the only way I can feel anxiety is because really it is there underneath a lot of stuff. Yeah. And so the change in the fluctuation in the hormones is allowing that to come up. There's also that thought of, like with the nervous system, is if my hormones are changing, then perhaps my sense of safety has changed. So the anxiety is because my hormones are fluctuating so much, I no longer feel safe. That brings on anxiety, and it's all just that real primal instinct stuff that's coming through rather than actual, you know, I'm anxious because there's something happening or there's something going to happen or my life is changing. You know, it's like it's actually just that primal response.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The thing that came up for me there was a little bit in with what you were saying was, what do you think comes first? It's back to the mind over matter or the matter over mind. Does the state of whatever emotion trigger hormone responses, or do the hormone responses trigger?
Honestly, I don't know because I'm no expert on.
I'm no expert, but I know there are various hormones that if you're low in them, then it tends to make you feel a certain way. But like, did you feel a certain way which lowered your hormone production? Or did you lower your hormone production which made you...
that's interesting because I think it can happen both ways. And like I said, you know, the perimenopause in women, you know, that's a whole other ball game of hormone fluctuations. And I think that does influence it. I still have that influence from, like, I know 10 days out from my period that quite often I take a bit of a dive, like this is sort of, and that's the change in the progesterone level. And so, because I said to you, I feel a little bit off. I don't know. Hang on, let me have a think. I'm like, no, it's 10 days. That's what it is. That's why it's just like, and then it tends to be like one day because it seems to change quite quickly or rapidly. Is it takes one day to adjust to this new level of how I'm feeling, and then I'm able to balance and recalibrate. And I think sometimes it's just natural shifts, and then we also have like triggers and things going on in our life, or, you know, something like still grieving, you know, that can just, like, some days or some moments like the emotion hits out of nowhere.
Yeah. So you mentioned there with your hormones and your period, how it affects you, but then you kind of understand what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So does understanding help?
Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
And don't know, like, their natural cycles. I mean, I know a lot about being a woman. I don't know much about being a man, because you have, like, different testosterone levels as well. Your hormones will fluctuate, and I don't know if that happens in a cycle or not, because I've not really bothered to look, to be honest with you, because it's more important to know about me right now than
I definitely don't know anything about that.
And it's interesting, is that happening? Or, it's just that, there's so, like you were saying, it's like, is it this influencing that? I think there's so much at play.
Yeah.
That I think everything is influencing anything, and that we always need to look at ourselves as a whole.
Yes.
And you said definitely understanding, how hormones can affect your mood.
Yeah.
And things like that. And from a woman's perspective, how your cycle affects you, and then how when you age, going into perimenopause and menopause, how that can affect you. Mm-hmm. So that I think so you're not caught off guard and think that you're going insane. Because it can feel like that, because what you think you know yourself, and you think you know what's going on, you think you know how to work with your emotions and your hormones, but suddenly it's like 10 times, and out of the blue in the random place and cycles. It's just like, that can be quite disturbing. And certainly the anxiety, when I'm like that, it's like, okay, I know no caffeine, I know what things I can do to help, reduce the symptoms of the anxiety. Because obviously coffee, they have that meme was coffee is just anxiety but faster, and it definitely, like, if you have anxiety, coffee can make that anxiety seem so much faster and overwhelming. So, I was a week without having any coffee. I don't drink a lot anyway, but I was a week without it, and that alone made a huge difference, because I wasn't having this spike.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's what I seem to notice. We're talking a lot about how our hormones affect us and how our emotions affect us, but I think there's more basic for a lot of people is even just noticing the emotion they're in. Yeah,
noticing what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like you were saying, understanding.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes not sometimes, you can feel it in your physical body as well.
Yes.
So, like, for me, anger sits in the chest, makes me cough.
Yeah.
This is like, especially because I do the distant healing stuff, if I connect in with people or animals and my chest feels tight and I want to cough, that's generally because there's anger trapped in them, and so I can help release that for them. So, like, knowing, so for me, that's my thing. And then, it's anxiety is more my gut. Sadness, I don't know. It's behind my eyes. Because it makes me cry, but it's behind my. I had to think into that. I was like, where does sadness? Like, my face behind my eyes. That's where sadness seems to be for me. But it's like being able to understand and identify your emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have that awareness of where emotions are in my body, but I think, because I was just trying to work it out there, I think part of it is that you need to notice, because I've had times where I've been grumpy and it's taken me a minute to realize, oh, hang on, I'm in a bad mood.
Yes.
Like, you don't notice it immediately sometimes. But then once you notice it and you sort of identify it, oh yeah, I'm grumpy about something, then the next one for me is, okay, well, why?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling this way? And then for myself, I usually then rationalize myself out of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm frustrated with something at work or whatever. I'm frustrated by this. Okay, well, is there anything I can do about it? And I just sort of work my way through it in my head. And then kind of once I'm there, I'm like, well, usually there's nothing I can do about it, which is probably what causes the frustration. But it's like, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so there's no point in being frustrated.
And then do you like purposely,
I don't
go?
I don't
Do you
say
know
to
what I mean?
myself to let it go.
Okay.
No, I rationalize my way
And do you
out
think
of
the
it.
rationalizing actually lets it go?
Yeah, that's the
so
way
it's
I let
like,
it go.
That's the way you let it go. It's like, there's nothing I can do about it. So then it's gone, so I feel better.
Yeah.
Although, I don't always notice you feel better.
I notice I feel better.
Well, that's good. I think that's my hypersensitivity. So I still feel the previous energy sitting with you until it does actually. So it's that thing is, as much as mentally it's gone, the energy is still releasing for a while. Yeah.
Well, it's like, take this morning. I was so when I woke up. Honestly, I was quite tired and sore from kickboxing. But then went out to go and do my cows, and there's a few problems checking them, and cows doing stupid cow things, which increased my frustration and my anger. And then there was, something else and something else. It's like, and it just built and it built and it built, and I could feel just the frustration and anger in me. And then I ran through why it was, and the one that comes down to me with that is a lot of it's not actually helping anything.
No. Well, they talk about that, if you're angry at someone, you're only really hurting yourself. Mm-hmm. The anger is just within you, and it's just hurting you. But, it still takes a little bit to allow that process to happen.
Yes.
However you process your emotions. I think that's the thing, is part of it is you have an opportunity when you notice your emotion to process it.
I think processing is a really good word, because that's exactly what I do.
Because everyone does it differently.
Yep.
For me, I like to identify. Mm-hmm. And, identifying, naming it kind of gives you the opportunity to move it. Yeah. Let it flow, let it go, however you process it, however you work your way through it to let it go. And sometimes I do have to take that moment of, because I just do like a different practice to you, is I will just go and touch the tree or the earth and actually physically just send the energy out. Mm-hmm. Or you can like imagine it flowing through you and down. If you're inside the house, you can just imagine it flowing down through your feet into the ground. Just actually use your imagination to envisage whatever it is. You can give it a colour, its name, and whatever, and that just allows you to let it go, put it down, stop holding on to it, stop focusing on it, stop building on it.
I think that's a way that people can help to explain to their subconscious their intention.
I think that, and that's I think we get so focused on whether it's good, whether it's bad. There's a bad emotion, and then there's that berating yourself. I feel angry, and I'm angry and upset that I'm angry. Mm-hmm. How dare I be angry? This shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be angry. So then you deny yourself the ability to actually process and move on, because you're so busy giving yourself a hard time for having emotions.
The giving yourself a hard time for feeling away seems silly.
Yeah. But it's very easy to do.
I suppose it maybe is, but I don't know. I don't like to give myself a hard time for it. Like, if I'm feeling angry about something, well, there's a reason that I got there. Now, it might not be a good reason, but there's a reason that I got there. And once I understand I'm angry and this is the reason that I got here, then I can be like, okay.
Sometimes it's like you get angry because you're not shifting it.
Oh, frustration and not being able to shift the emotion away.
Just I can't get out of this funk,
So is that because you've not identified the source?
Yeah, probably. Or
you think you're
denying yourself. Or there's also that wonderful word? Word or world? Both. Resistance.
Resistance, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling
I just want to feel grumpy today.
Yeah, it's like that sort of feeling, it's almost like self-sabotage, isn't it?
I could hear the words in your head that I don't deserve to not be grumpy, sort of thing.
Yeah. It was just like, no, I must suffer. Yeah. I must suffer and continue to suffer. And it's like you create this negative story in your mind about, I should feel bad and I should feel...
So on that one, so if you imagine yourself in a place where you're like, no, I should feel bad, then for me, it would be like, okay, well, why do you feel like you should feel bad? What have you done that makes you deserve this?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm fortunate because I'm able to take a very non-biased, I think, approach to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I can look and see, well, do I actually deserve... And, usually, no, you don't deserve to feel that way.
But
so,
it can be hard if you've got into a really negative headspace to do that, unless you're you.
Yes.
You get so far down that rabbit hole of negativity and bashing yourself that you struggle to really just be like, oh, am I, a bad person? You're still in that, you're just so berated yourself and belittled yourself and taken away your own power of who you are that
that
you
sort of
can't
negative
find
self-talk.
Yeah. And so you just start believing that, and if someone says, do you deserve that? You're like, yeah, I do. I'm a bad... it's like, you just... It eats you alive in a different way.
I'm trying to think.
Okay.
And this is not something really you can help me with thinking, but...
okay, I'll think for you. Tell me what I need to think.
Thanks. I'm trying to think if there was a point in my life where I experienced negative self-talk.
Do you think there was a point in your life where you realised that it wasn't actually your fault or problem, and therefore you're just like, nope, that's the end of that?
I think probably that happened quite early on.
Yeah.
And that helped everything.
Yeah.
But, I don't recognise a point at that. I do remember a distinct feeling, although a lot of the memory is not there anymore, which is odd because it's a memory from being like 15 or 16. But the distinct memory of the I don't like the person I'm becoming and wanting to make a change.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if that was tied into any emotional or self-talk. Obviously, there must have been a image of the road that I was going down that I didn't like. But I can't ever remember negative self-talk, because even in that point, it wasn't negative self-talk. It was like, if you stay on this path, this is where you're going to end up, but you've got the potential to go this way.
But you still do little bits of negative self-talk, you just don't spiral.
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, thinking about, with your writing and things like that,
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit of negative self-talk comes into that sometimes.
Probably that's more like self-doubt.
Self-doubt, okay. But it's still, self-doubt is still self-talk, because you talk to yourself about your doubt. It's easy to get caught up in that doubt.
Yeah.
And talk.
So, like, with the writing side of things, it's like, I don't know if I'm any good.
Well, this is it. That's a negative.
But is that... But the thought process in that one is, I don't know. Yeah. It's not, I'm not good. Yeah. It's, I don't know.
But that's... Yeah, so that, like I said, that's doubt. That's really interesting, isn't it?
But that's just the framing for me. That doesn't seem like negative self-talk. That seems like a question.
Well, I feel like questioning yourself like that is a negative thing to do. So whether it's self-talk or self-doubt, it's still I mean, everyone questions themselves, but it is something that it keeps people humble. It does. It's good. We don't always feel I
put a very big front on of the no self-doubt and the I can do anything thing. But, there is that bit inside of the writing. Yeah. It's like, am I actually any good at this? Kickboxing, it's like that. Am I kind of stupid doing this? Those thoughts are there.
Yeah.
But that's more, I feel, realistic questioning rather than, because my mind's not saying you're useless and you're an idiot.
But, I suppose it's negative questioning, questioning ourselves, although important, is perhaps something that we shouldn't be doing, because we should have full faith in ourselves and our ability to do whatever we want to do. Do you think? Or do you think it's okay? Balance?
I think balance. I think everything in life, it doesn't matter what you're thinking about, is balance.
Well, that's what I was thinking, because,
Can you tell I'm a Libra?
It's not...
But I think you need to have that question within yourself.
To keep you humble. Do you think?
To keep you humble, to keep you safe,
you know, if
to
you
keep
think
you from doing something stupid.
some people who have unerring faith in themselves like blunder into
really bad
situations because they
don't ask the question, should I do this?
Is this right? Yeah.
It's kind of like that, you know, that primal feeling of being on the edge of a cliff and wanting to jump off.
Yeah.
Like, everyone has that. It's like this primal thing in your brain. A lot of people I've heard say that it's part of what made humans progress so much is because we were willing to take those leaps into danger to try and accomplish more. So at that point, the no questioning yourself or self-doubt is great because it helps you push forwards and push into the unknown sort of thing. However, when you're standing on the edge of that cliff, the question in your head of the doubt, I don't think this might be a good idea. Like, that's really important. So it's the balance of it.
And also, I think just what came to me there is, you know, when you have fears and doubts, like, of yourself, is that sometimes there's a real root cause of something that you can let go of and release that's come from something probably random because the subconscious is wonderful.
Yeah.
But like, if you work into that doubt or fear, you might find something that's there to release that will stop holding you back in the same way as well.
Okay, so you just made a connection in my brain that is really interesting to me. So, kickboxing, I want to have a proper fight. A lot of it, I think, is kind of to prove to myself I can, to see if I can, you know, that sort of thing. And also, I like to just push myself and go as far as I want. I was talking with our coach about it the other night, that we were talking about all the different things that people struggle with their first time going into a proper fight. You know, the ring, the anxiety, all this sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be a problem for me. But what I identified as probably being a problem for me is committing enough to striking and overpowering the other person. Because even you can do a competition that's kick light, so it's not really full power. You're not really trying to hurt them, but a certain part of it is overwhelming them and making them feel uncomfortable.
You're good at that.
Thank you, I think.
Having sparred with you, you are reasonably good at that.
Yeah. Well, I hold myself back a lot in sparring because I don't want my sparring partner to feel overwhelmed and uncomfortable. I don't want them to feel unhappy about the situation, you know?
Yep.
So, in fact, last night in sparring, coaches again were like, why do you keep pulling back after you do this jab? And I was like, well, I'm pulling back just to see that you're comfortable with where you're... No, don't stop doing that. Just keep pushing forward. So I think the link that you just made for me is that probably comes back to the subconscious link of feeling like I'd hurt someone and then not wanting to do that. And I can't even remember where this started with what you were saying, but like that was just a sudden spark.
Yeah, so like that could be the subconscious root link of the fear, doubt, or uncertainty around your kickboxing progression.
That's it.
And I, like I said, I think sometimes the fears and the doubts are just here to show us where there's things that's ready to be let go of that is holding us back.
Yes.
You know, and I think we're saying, you know, if you don't have those, you're not really progressing, and I don't think you are, because you're not really connecting in with what's going on. You're just bulldozing your way through.
Yeah.
So, like, seeing fears and doubts, and they can come through as emotions when you're in situation, you know, taking us back to the emotions, as opportunities to learn more about ourselves and sort of, I don't even want to say heal, because I don't think heal makes me sometimes feel like I'm not whole, and you're whole as you are right now. And as much as heal, you're always healing, because you're always healing and growing and like helping yourself feel better. But sometimes with healing, it can make you feel like you're a broken person or not.
It's more, I think, about understanding.
But I think it's more about understanding and actually allowing things to be released and let go of, you know, like, and sometimes that can just come from being, Oh, that's because of that funny little childhood thing that my subconscious has made this weird connection with.
So
that isn't actually important anymore, and it doesn't need to be a programming that's there to create this fear and doubt about something that actually isn't even kind of related, but it is, because that's the way my subconscious has made it.
It's really interesting that in the way that the subconscious plays into it, because for me, with the situation I was talking about, my conscious mind doesn't at all think that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm suddenly very aware that a part of my subconscious is generating a whole bunch of stories and scenarios to try and prove the fact that actually no. And the more I think about it as we're talking, the more my subconscious is like, no. I was right. You did do this thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So clearly it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I bet you by the end of today, that will have changed the whole way.
Definitely.
You know, like even just by doing that and not even having to do anything more than just realizing it, seeing it, feeling it, by the end of today, a lot of that will be gone. And there may be a bit you just look into it again and just be like, okay, no, yeah.
Especially for the way that I process things.
Yeah.
Now that I'm aware of it.
No, I've had that thing. I do journaling, like I said, and, you know, I'm just like, I just don't feel like this is the blah, blah, blah. I know, I'm like journaling away, because if I just keep writing, it allows all the thoughts to come through and out instead of just going round and round in my head. And then it'll be, and I just don't because of this. And I'm like, well, that's just ridiculous. You know, literally, I'm like, that doesn't even, and like, that is it. It's like, once that's on the paper and I've seen where that fear, doubt, whatever's going on, emotions is coming through, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not a thing anymore. You know, like, it instantly is like, that's not a thing anymore because I've seen it.
So that's interesting, because in your journaling, that's what I do in my head.
Yes.
I don't write it down, but I do the exact same process.
I do it in my head a bit too, but I find that I don't always get to the root. I'll just keep repeating the same stuff. Yeah, I almost get stuck, and that's where that free flow of writing and just like having a good old moan on a bit of paper.
Yep.
And it's the same way as, you know, when you have a friend, you meet up and you have a moan together, you always feel better, and it's just because it's out. And then you actually like, actually that was just, it wasn't actually that big, just because I was holding it all in. Mm-hmm. And that's the same. It's like, that is the same as emotions. If you're holding it all in and not expressing your emotions and letting the energy flow, then you are not allowing yourself to move on and feel better.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Good talk.
It was a good talk. It's very interesting how much comes down to awareness.
Yes, and we always talk about it, but I just think it's so important. Without awareness, you live your life in a way that feels very uncomfortable, I can only imagine. I mean, also awareness can be really frigging annoying.
Awareness is very annoying.
Because you're aware of why people behave the way you behave, or why you're behaving the way you're behaving, and it's like, you know, sometimes you came home from kickboxing. I wasn't able to go. I've got a little bit of sciatica at the moment, and I was just like, I've just had a really triggering week, and I just didn't get to go and do something that's fun and helps me to feel better. And like, I know why it is, and I'm still upset, but okay. It's just like, but it's great. I know why I feel the way I was feeling, and within sort of, I'd let a lot of it go. I was a little bit grumpy, and I was just like, I know what will help.
Where are
this.
you? I didn't notice.
I'm going to go to bed. And it reset, you know, like it all gone by the morning, because I'd had that little expressing moment of, woe is me, and I know why woe is me, but it's done now, you know.
That is the interesting bit that we didn't touch on, is the feeling emotions from others.
Yeah. Do you want to do a different one about that? Or
we can do,
Yeah, I think we've spoken about that before, because that's something that I do a lot.
Yes.
Like I'm like hypersensitive. I can feel the dogs when they're getting uptight. And you know, it's a whole thing.
It is. It's almost like you end up in the rhythm with the other person.
Well, thank you for bringing up a really good topic.
Thank you for helping me link something in my
you're just having a whole healing moment. I can see you're just all like, your energy is completely shifted and you're just having an epiphany, an aha moment of
Yes.
clarification with yourself.
Very much an aha moment.
Yeah, I love those. Absolutely love those. Thank you.